All right. And we are live.
Yeah, I think the standards for like standard heart rates, especially for people in our age group, are off. Like, I don't know when they created these, but I feel like it's closer to when, people our age were, I don't know, 2 steps closer to death. I don't know. I was talking to my PT today and like, yeah. Like,
Isn't the step count wrong too?
Is
for
it?
us? Like, apparently it was just like randomly decided by these Japanese scientists, but like nobody really needs 10,000 steps. You're just fine with like 5,000 is really the minimum.
Yeah, 10,000 feels like
I
such an arbitrary number. It's like, why 10,000,
Yeah.
right?
I think a lot of health apps now default to like 6,000 as like.
Oh, thank goodness, because it was as someone who is very susceptible to gamification, that kill. I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. I just don't like taking walks. I'm a bad person.
I need a new mic
Speaking of
stand.
gamification, I have like no friends in the fitness world, even though I try so hard like to be on everything.
I'll be friends you on Strava. I have not. Oh, I'm unintegrated with Strava.
I use Strava. I pay for it because I like their topographical maps.
I do too, but I don't really. I walk rarely, so it's fun when I use them. But I'm very happy.
Yeah. See, I'm a hiker, but I got into it because for some reason I realized that I have a lot of friends who mountain bike. And when I was in New York, I found out this is a California thing, apparently. So apparently it's a California thing to mountain bike. It is not like an East Coast thing.
True.
Somebody confirm this for me.
At least
at least a mid-Atlantic thing. I mean, like mountain bike, like New England. Like I have a buddy who lives in New Hampshire, and it's huge mountain biking.
Right? Because
right.
I would imagine, right? You live in Vermont, you'd want to.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess that's true. Us mid-Atlantic folks don't got a lot of mountains, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Wayne, you're in Colorado. I feel like.
Oh, sorry. I'm always thinking I was a Marylander. Yeah, people here in Colorado bike. I was thinking, sorry, Maryland hat on.
People in Colorado do all those things that watches are advertised for.
Yes, and I don't do any of them. I feel like at some point someone from the Colorado State Department is going to knock on my door and give me a test. Like, excuse me, ma'am.
Ma'am, you first of all, you don't drive a Subaru.
I do actually. There's one thing, but I don't have a dog.
Too.
I don't have a dog. I don't ski.
It's okay, they're a lot of work.
I don't
they're
really
a lot of
hike
work.
Much. I'm sorry. I don't hike.
I like hiking.
I like hiking.
Only
too,
way
I
you
just
can give
don't
me
do
the
it.
exercise. But I hate bugs.
Yes.
Can
I
I just
hide
don't
like
camp.
Lysol wipes in my bag.
Oh, they sell those? I need those.
So yeah, you get like the little travel packs.
I need those.
And so if you have to use an outhouse, you can like.
Oh, where were we? I think we went up to Calistoga Bay or something one time. We took my mom. Maybe it was Calistoga. I figured it was one of those places. No, or maybe it was. I was road tripping my husband. It was one of those bathrooms that's just a hole in the ground. Literally,
Yes.
It's like an outhouse with a hole that goes to nowhere. And I turned around. I was like, "Oh shit! What?
In the hole.
What? Sink?
Are we allowed to cuss
Nobody-
on this?
Yeah,
No?
a
Yeah, you can. I mean, we're not. I mean, this is the show itself, but but you're so.
I've said shit several times. I've been very happy. I'm trying it just a little.
Yeah, no,
bit.
it's fine. I mean, as long as we're not like explicit, like vulgar. You know what I mean? Like Mishaal has when we're off camera, Mishaal just curses up a storm. It's just,
Totally.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Shocking, just shocking.
Giving
No,
all
actually-
the live listeners the false impression of me.
I'm actually the one that needs to watch it. It's Flo knows.
Oh, I do too. I'm just keeping it under wraps. I was wondering. I was trying to. It's live stream. So I guess I'll say here. I was trying to think of a metaphor for one of the stories and something about ball punching. I was like, oh wait a minute, maybe that's too much for the show. Yeah, kind of a little bit.
People with the hardware involved might feel triggered
attacked
by
or
the action.
unsettled, and I'm sorry. I don't mean to scare or offend anyone who has the aforementioned.
It's like when people
equipment.
talk about pinching at St. Patrick's Day. Like I get a visceral feeling of being pinched, and I don't like it.
Ooh, especially in the back of the arm. It's like, no.
That's funny. Oh, too good. No one in the chat room has said anything about my audio level, so I assume I'm okay.
Oh, it's brilliant. I didn't even notice today.
Does that sound
Or-
good?
It's good.
All right, good.
Where is the chat room for all y'all?
If you look in the
Just
upper
click on the
right hand
comments
corner in the comments tab
Okay.
on your screen above the private chat one, you can see all the chat from the.
Oh.
Yep. So there's all the YouTube and Twitch chatters.
Okay.
So there you go. All right, everybody. As you can see, the lovely Florence Ion is with us. Florence, do you prefer Flo or Florence? What would you, when we're doing the show, what would you rather me say?
I mean, y'all call me Flo, so
Right, okay.
just call me Flo.
I know, but when I use your last name, I feel like I got it's like when it's like Flo Ion is I lean on Florence Ion for whatever reason. All right, quick reminder to everybody that we need you to help us pick a title for the show. So as the show is going and we say wacky things, go to af.showbot.tv and enter in your title choices. We love you for it, and we will review them when the show is over, because it's a fun thing to do. All right. Before we get started, quick show of hands to everybody on the show. Who's tired of the word pixel?
I'm tired of another word. It's a 2-letter word.
AI.
Oh, that one, the one that turns into a verb.
Is it DP developer preview?
The one that we weren't allowed to do a drinking game on if we were watching.
Oh, that one.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah,
yes.
that one. Yeah. That's fair. So, all right.
Because we would die.
We're almost through it. So, all right. Shall we do the show? Shall we get started?
Sure.
Shall we?
When you are good for the intros?
I'm good for the intro.
All right. Well, all right. So Flo and Mishaal, I will say goodbye to everybody, and we'll bring you back in a moment. So, whoop, 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 and how do I do this? I always forget what I'm supposed to do. Oh, Mishaal, how'd you get up there? Oh, there you are. Boop. I did the wrong thing.
It's okay.
What are you laughing at?
Just nervous. It's like just saw my face. Like, oh God. Hey, welcome to Android Faithful, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps in the year-over-year increasingly made by Google world of Android. I'm Huyen Tue Dao.
And I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm Mishaal Rahman.
Excellent. We made it through Pixel Week.
We did.
Yep.
And
unfortunately, we couldn't be there like as the show went on, but now we can talk about it a whole full week later.
And we had to get somebody who was there, and so we're super excited to welcome to her first episode of Android Faithful, Miss Florence Ion. Welcome to the show.
Bring back that EDM intro. I was like totally vibing.
Fancy, right?
Vibing.
There you go.
Oh,
There we go.
melodic.
We are very lucky to have really good music. So
Yes. Yeah, I mean it's so catchy and dancey. I love it.
Right up until my face goes on the screen, I'm just like this in the background, just hoping that I get a couple more bars in until I have to actually say the thing.
Want to get my glow sticks out. Like I wanted to be a raver when I was a kid, but obviously I wasn't allowed to leave the house. So that didn't happen.
Same.
Well, Flo, we're super excited to have you on the show, not only because you were at the Google Pixel event in New York City last week, but because you're part of the fam. You're part of the Android fam that we've created here. So we're super excited for you to come with us. Speaking of fam, a couple of things to promote since we forgot to promote it at the beginning of the show last week. Let's promote it at we promote it at the end. Let's promote it at the start. So last week was Pixel Week. We celebrated Pixel Eve on the show last Tuesday, and then Wednesday was Pixel Palooza. Right. So when you joined Jason on Twit, right?
Yeah. So if you want to just rewatch the entire, event with our commentary and jokes or odd other noises, not too many of those, you can check out twit.tv/ what was it, news? I think it was on the
Twit news. Yeah.
Twit news made by Google 2023. And if you miss Jason, you get both of us for like an hour and a half.
And I'll admit, it was fun to watch the Pixel event with my friends Win and Jason talking about everything. But it doesn't stop there because we got new fam, right? And Mishaal, what did you do after the event?
I went on DTNS, Good Day Internet, to talk about the show after it had already ended. That was a crazy day because it had been like nonstop. Here are all these new devices. Here are the new phones. Here's Android 14. Here's the watch. Here's the new buds. And like oh my gosh, it was crazy.
Yep.
So then afterwards, we just had time to decompress and just talk about everything that Google unveiled.
Yep.
And now we've had time to actually relax and,
parse it all.
actually
Parse
parse
this.
through everything that Google announced.
Have we had time to relax?
No, not really. Not at all.
So you can go back and relive.
Because Mishaal, just today you sent out like 7 Telegram messages. Okay, I'm on that feed. I see you pushing that news.
Well, so you can go back and enjoy Mishaal on DTNS. It's on the DTNS podcast feed, or go to youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show. You can check that out. But we didn't stop there because I had to get in on the fun. And even though I was busy last Wednesday at work all day and I couldn't participate in the fun, I did get on with friend of the show, Miriam Jawar, onto Miriam's podcast to kind of recap the event and stuff like that. And you can go find that at worldpodcast.com. And Miriam's podcast is on there. Mobile Tech Podcast is called. And give it a listen. It was a fun conversation. Miriam's always a hoot to get those opinions. But yeah, so you'd think that we'd be all talked out of talking about the Pixel event, but here we are. We did it. So Flo, what was the event like? Give us the boots on the ground kind of story there.
I mean, the event was a sprinkling. It was a sprinkling of people. It wasn't as like big and bustling as I thought it was going to be. And I have to say, I completely forgot that Android 14 came out last week. Partially because I was so busy with all the, the coverage that I was doing of the hardware and, the meetings that I had taken with Google, kind of like to look over the new Pixel stuff. And I'd completely just forgotten that Android 14 launched. And I wanted to talk to you guys about this because it's been some time since the event happened. And I've kind of been percolating on things. And I realized that with this Pixel event that Google threw, there was very little Android present. Like, granted, Android is the bones of this whole operation, but it doesn't exist the way that it did as like an entity before. Now it's very much like the Pixel features, the Pixel machine algorithms, the tensor in the Pixel. You see what I'm saying? It's very like it's no longer about the Android OS. Like, that's not what Google's selling anymore.
It's very Pixel forward.
Yes.
Right.
It's very Google forward, really.
Right. And it's very Google forward. And I think, we've watched Google wrestle with branding for how many years now, right? And trying to, because they can't own the whole Android experience because so many other people are on Android. So they need to define, like, I could imagine the conference room conversations they have about the branding and whatever agencies they're talking to and things like that, about how you need to own something, and Pixel you can actually own,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, even from the presence of the people who were on stage, like, we had a lot of product managers, we had hardware managers. We didn't have Dave Burke and the Android team coming out to talk about, like, here's all the new things, because most of what's being done that's like special is part of an app, and that ability is unlocked by a specific chip existing inside Pixel, right? So it's like the magic editor, I think, is the one that they told us about. That's kind of like the big like AI one. Excuse me. That is in Google Photos, but it is only available for a brand new Pixel.
Yep.
When it comes out.
Interesting observation. I didn't even think about that. Mishaal, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting that, because Google, as you said, they want to own all the features that they are releasing. They want to tie everything to Pixel. There are a lot more features than people are aware of in the new Android release. But even so, because Google only decides to highlight a couple of them in their blog posts and their social media posts, a lot of users aren't really aware of, just how many features and changes actually go into each Android release. And I think it's a strategic decision by Google to not highlight everything, because, they want to, push and promote their Pixel exclusive featers. And those are all the things they showed off at the Made by Google event: all the Magic Editor, the Video Boost, the all the other stuff, Audio Magic Eraser, all the other stuff that they announced, all Pixel exclusive features. None of them are in Android.
Nothing to do with like Nothing to do with the Android OS, because at the end of the day, when you're going to go to a Samsung phone, it's going to be a different Android experience than we're
Right.
going to get on the
Completely
Pixel.
different.
And
Yeah.
like even the OnePlus now, ever since the whole like Oppo makeover with the UI, they really took after like ColorOS.
Yeah.
It's a completely its own thing.
It is. Yeah.
We're
It
back
is-
where we
it is
started,
very-
y'all.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing if you go back and look at some of the other major product launches by like Google's partners, like OnePlus, like Samsung, all these other product launches. They always have at least one person from the Android team like go up and say something about the device, right? All these other, they have like one person from Android say something. Oh, we're excited to work on our partnership with Xiaomi, with Samsung, with OnePlus, and they talk about some of the features that are there. But then at Google's event, it's all about just the Pixel exclusive features and not really highlighting or promoting Android all that much. It's kind of like an awkward relationship they have.
Well, so now you got my tinfoil conspiracy theory hat going on, Mishaal and Flo, because as we all know, as we've been tracking here and where in the world is Android 14, Android 14's rollout did not go as planned. And there is a world that I can imagine where Android 14 was out by the time this event happens, or was supposed to be out, and it didn't go out. And it ended up rolling out at the same time as the event, so it looks somewhat coordinated, but they didn't highlight that in a dramatic fashion anyway, almost to not call attention to it, or not, kind of, I just feel like they probably had a plan around Android, and sometime in September they had to scrap that, and this is probably the byproduct of that. That's all speculation on my side. I have no idea.
Well, I mean,
but,
I'm not speculating. That's exactly what I said on the day. Like, there was a last minute bug they found that severely degraded performance.
yeah, which you can't
And
have.
so they had
and you
to-
can't, and you
Yeah.
can't
Oh,
have
is
idea-
that why?
yeah.
Is that your conspiracy, Mishaal? Because I was wondering
It's not a
about
conspiracy.
that too.
This is I heard this like directly. I mean, like from someone I trust.
Well, I wanted to bring it up with you guys because over on my podcast with Andy and Otko on the Relay FM network, Material Podcast, we publish weekly. We talk a lot about like this AI first approach that Google took, and I took down a very specific quote from Rick Osterloh where he said
Your
it's
buddy.
no longer it's about AI first, and it just feels like, okay, so Sundar came out and was like, everybody, Google's going to be AI first now. Alphabet's going to be AI first. So now it feels like every single division coming out of that campus now has to be like AI first.
Well,
and so the Android brand just doesn't really push that.
Well, so now we're getting into like rumor and all this sort of stuff. But I heard from
Yes.
a source I trust that someone on a product team was work in Google they pulled everyone off to work on AI solutions within their product
See, I have heard this too,
to show that
rumbling.
they can do it better
Yes.
than Bard, to avoid integrating with Bard, which is like classic Google left hand right hand kind of stuff, where like we saw Bard was the thing and blah blah all this stuff in IO, and then you've got people within their own product teams building AI stuff with the back end stuff to do their own thing, right? Which is it's just maddening. It never ends. So.
We're gonna talk about some AI powered features like later on, but I don't know if you saw the news earlier today that like, Microsoft is literally just bleeding money on AI. I think like $20 per GitHub Copilot user. They're just losing money.
How much? What is
So,
that?
like,
Like,
it's interesting to see how these companies
$17.99 a month for something.
Right.
I don't know what.
Yeah.
like all
This-
these companies are just throwing money at AI right now, seeing what sticks.
It's like
And,
the tech company version
we
of
don't know if it'll
cryptocurrency or
actually-
something. I don't
No,
know.
yeah, this
When
is
it
this.
changes
No,
There's
this
into
actually a good
AI.
use for it. It's just
Yeah.
like we don't know. Like they are really trying to get ahead of the trend.
well, and it's funny
They
because,
want to be
because
the ones to lead.
it's funny because in another section of the company, there's see now we're completely. By the way, we have a whole plan for the show, and we're completely off the
we're
rails.
off.
So
We're
good
off.
job,
We're
Flo. Welcome back.
professionals.
Welcome back to another corner of the Google universe that I know and talk to people about and stuff like that. That there's a segment of the company that has been building AI tools for years and not calling it AI.
Yeah.
And nobody objects or has a problem with it, and now they're pivoting to start referring to them as AI because AI is the thing, and worried about, is there now going to be backlash for these tools that are multi-years old that they just never referred to as AI?
Yeah,
So
that's. I mean,
yeah.
and that's kind of a marketing thing, and that's why people have to say. I mean, like Google's been doing AI for years. It's just that the way that the generative AI revolution, I don't want to even call it that, thing zeitgeist has come forward, it makes people change things. And okay, I've never worked at Google. I don't work at Google. I'm not referencing anyone that I know that worked at Google, but all the things and all the conspiracy kind of theories that y'all have, I have seen happen with my own eyes at companies that have multiple products, that have multiple OKRs, sometimes competing OKRs, competing products, and overlapping feature sets. This crap, this shit. Sorry, we gotta say it on this podcast. This shit happens all the time at big companies. I've seen it now, at least 2 of them. So I don't think it's so conspiracy. I think whatever you're saying, and again, I'm not speaking for anybody at Google or myself, but I believe all of it, because that's what happens when you have a company with so many disparate parts, and then someone up high says, "Hey, AI is our thing," and then everyone has to freaking jump because it's your job or your budget or whatever until you do. So better or worse, yeah, man.
So I want to try to pull it back to the Pixel event, but stay on the AI topic, because I was excited the day at the end of the day of the event, when I finally got home, and my wife was like, "Oh, so how was it?" And Flo knows my wife, and she's not one of us, and God bless her heart for even remembering there was an event. And I was like, "Oh, I want to show you," and I showed her Best Take.
Yeah.
And I showed her the video that they showed in the event for Best Take. So anybody listening, like, by the way, we're not going to recap everything about the events. You guys all, like, there's tons of people have recapped it. I'm sure you've all read it and saw it. Like, we know Flo did a great article on Gizmodo that got her hands on with the Pixel 8, Pixel 8 Pro, and the Pixel Watch and everything. So we're not going to recap specs, or you go back and read about the announcements. We don't have enough time for that. But I showed my wife the Best Take video and explained that this is the AI thing in Google Photos that can take the best face of people in photos from a batch of photos and let you make the best one. And now my wife loves Magic Eraser. She thinks it's amazing. She uses it all the time. She thinks it's very cool. She showed that video and she looked at me and she's like, "Okay, now I'm horrified." Right? And it wasn't about because it can do it. It was, then we had a really great conversation, which I actually talked about with Miriam on her podcast too, which is, what is real?
Yeah.
Right. Like isn't we have 2 4-year-olds at home. The fun is we can't get a family picture where both of them are looking at the camera and smiling.
No.
And one of them making a face, one of them looking, one of them blinked, all this sort of stuff. And like now with Best Take, I can do that, but it's not real.
It's not real. Yeah.
The moment is it's the Simpsons, it's Homer grabbing Bart by the neck and that being the family photo. Like, that's the real photo. That's the real moment. And it's like, do you want to put forward an Instagram reality of like this perfect life and everyone in my family smiles, or do you want to have the reality? And so like you don't have to use it. I don't have to use Best Take, but it horrified my wife on a sociological level. So I
actually think Best Take is the realest of the fake features, if you know what I mean. So because like Best Take relies on like multiple captures of like, at different times, right? And then just stitching two of those together, right? So at least in one of those frames, you had like both child making the face you want.
Sure.
Putting together in the same image. Some of the other features though, like, Magic Editor, completely replacing the sky, right? Mm-hmm. That was not what the sky looked like at the time you took the photo. Or Magic Eraser itself. You're just erasing people who were actually there in the photo, right? Like that's completely fake. So I think Best Take is actually not supposed to be the most controversial of the features.
But it still
for
is,
some reason
though, because it's creating a not real moment. Right? It's like not everyone.
It happened,
smiling.
but maybe like a couple of frames apart.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right?
Well, and it fits into the zeitgeist of the conversation around AI. I should say that since y'all did initially ask me about the event, Google set out all these demo stations throughout the venue where they had set up this event, and the idea was that you could go through each of these little stations and try out the different new AI things that you could do. So I went and I tried out like the audio clear calling one so that I could hear what it's like to have a call in a loud subway come through actually is very clear. Yay. And they were also doing some demos for the photography portion of it all, but that is like the one thing that's been coming up a lot amongst people is that Best Take thing. And I don't know that I necessarily find it scary, more than just like it's not about the hardware anymore.
Except when it comes to a temperature sensor.
which
Oh, I
we-
completely forgot about the temperature sensor.
Which I was
didn't
boggled
even
by.
think about it. I haven't thought about it since I wrote the piece
Well,
last week.
It almost felt like a throwaway when was it Rick who talked about the temperature sensor? It's like, oh, if you want to check the temperature of your pan, and I forgot, and he mentioned the
Baby bottle. Okay,
the baby
excuse
bottle.
me, very quickly. I have never had my phone near me when I was warming up a bottle.
And the
Or a
also thing
can.
was is that like dealing with bottles, I've never had a pair of hands enough to take the phone, open the app, and point at the thing.
This is what I'm
And-
saying.
And once again, I go back to my normal wife, and I say, oh, they added, for some unknown reason, they added a temperature sensor to the front of the Pixel Pro, and she's like, oh, so you can take my temperature? I'm like, well, no, we can't do that yet. The FDA hasn't approved it as a device to take human temperatures
Yeah,
yet.
it's not even FDA approved. And I think that they're gonna do the whole thing with this that they did with Soli. They're gonna put it like they did in the Pixel 4, and then next year you're not gonna see any more mention of this temperature sensor. It's gonna probably be rolled into a smart display. That's what they're gonna do.
I can't fathom why they decided to talk about that and not the fact that the Pixel 8's face unlock has been upgraded, which is actually low-key one of the biggest
I didn't
upgrades.
even know it was upgraded until I read
Yeah.
it in somebody else's article.
It's like, this is one of the biggest upgrades. Actually, I think this is the only Android smartphone with a Class 3 face unlock, which means you can use it for unlocking in banking apps or using it to make payments in Google Wallet. It's the only phone that I've seen that has that level of security for
Yes, but
face
Mishaal,
unlock.
some of us still
And
wear
it's
a mask.
purely with a single front-facing camera and machine learning algorithms optimized
Yes.
to detect whether or not your face is a real face and it's not just a photo of your face, or if you're actually moving or not. And like, that's actually a huge improvement, because all the other phones that I've tried, that I've like checked what their security level is, they're all like Class 2, which is a lower tier of security for the biometric sensor. So this is like one of the biggest upgrades, and it is mentioned in their blog posts, but they didn't bring it up during the keynote at all, which is very surprising to me.
Mishaal,
oh, go ahead.
what's the class of Apple's Face ID module?
So the whole class thing is just a purely Android concept. Like, Apple's just their
Okay.
own thing.
That's good
The
to
class
know.
is just a way for Android to tier different biometric sensors.
I got it. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and even like in the chat, they're saying this is the first I've heard about the face unlock upgrade. And like, Mishaal, that's a great point. Like, it was in the blog post, but it wasn't in the presentation. And like, is that, like, are they skating around the hot button issues that people, like, but to all of our points, there was so much packed into this event, and so much packed into Android 14, and so much packed into these devices that they couldn't get through everything, right? So it's probably good to hit on some of the other things. So face unlock was a huge thing. Ultra
other
HDR on
one-
Android 14, right, Mishaal? Right?
That one is massive, and I don't think a lot of reviewers are ready for what that brings, because
So what does that mean?
We're
so
not.
right now, the Pixel 8 and 8 Pro are the first phones to capture photos in the new Ultra HDR format. It's a new file format that's fully backward compatible with JPEG. I'm sure you're all familiar with like the ubiquitous JPEG, right?
Yeah.
But what this does is it stores basically the JPEG, but with additional metadata that allows it to be shown on standard SDR displays, as well as high dynamic range HDR displays. So you can have the same photo appear, as normal on regular displays on your regular TV and your regular monitor, and then appear super bright, crisp with high contrast colors and everything on HDR display. And even if you're viewing this on video, I can't show this. You can't get this effect unless you actually have a phone or a display with an HDR monitor, and you go to the example repository that I created for this. This is something you just have to see to understand. And once you see it, you understand, wow, this makes a massive difference just in the photos we take right now. Because a lot of the issues with the current photos we take on phones is that we've been using like this old definition of HDR, which is just, taking multiple photos and like trying to, mix the exposure. And a lot of times you have like this blown out sky, and you have like this foreground that's like, kind of washed out or in contrast, right? You have a lot of these issues with photography. And then with this HDR, you can kind of have both, the best of both worlds. You can have a really bright, vibrant sky, and also, not have the foreground be washed out. So like, there's all these advantages that Ultra HDR brings, but unfortunately, because of limited support and the fact that a lot of social media platforms and apps don't support it, or they basically strip out the data when you upload it, you're not going to be able to get that proper effect when you like see all the reviews on the Pixel 8 go live. So if you want to see what Ultra HDR looks like, I encourage you to go to that Android Police article that I wrote and check out some of the examples there.
Yeah, over at AndroidPolice.com, you just search for hands-on with Ultra HDR and Android 14, the future of photography. Good headline writing there, Mishaal. So, Flo, did you get to take pictures at the event? Did you get to play with the camera? How did it look and feel?
Yeah, I mean it's fine. I can't I can't really make an assessment without
doing your thing.
Tangible, anecdotal evidence, because a phone will always seem really great the minute that you pick it up the first time. It's just a demo there that you can like paw at. The temperature sensor, by the way, couldn't really figure out how to get it focused on like a surface. I didn't really understand that. I will say the one thing that I remember is that the UI has changed for the Pixel's camera app on the new 8 and 8 Pro. And it's a little more streamlined, but also a little different. Now you kind of jump into a video mode. Instead of going into like its own tab, you go into a camera mode, and then you choose between like the video and photo mode. And then that gives you corresponding settings based on the mode that you're in.
Yeah. Interesting. Iterative. So.
It's just these little things that,
I think I actually saw that on my Pixel
mode.
Fold the other day, and I was very confused because I actually flipped around.
Did they update the camera?
I don't, because it's like a little toggle
and it's
at the
flipped
bottom.
around, right?
Yeah, it's a little toggle at the bottom. And so like yesterday I was cooking and I was doing videos, and I kept looking for the video menu item that normally you would drag to, and I was like, what's going on? And it finally took me like looking at it for several seconds to be like, oh, it's now a toggle at the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah. So like, hold on.
All right.
Okay, never mind.
It's interesting that the Pro mode controls aren't in like its own mode. It's like just you press a settings button and it shows the Pro controls there. Yeah. Like a lot of other camera apps, they have a separate dedicated tab for Pro controls.
So
it is. I can't decide, by the way, if that makes it more user friendly or not, because I will say, like, going into a Pro mode on a Samsung device can be very intimidating if you do not understand.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt like what Google was presenting was a lot more approachable for
common users, right?
RAW or JPEG. Do you want to shoot 12 megapixel or do you want to shoot 50 megapixel?
All right. So overall, though, after watching the event, breaking it down for the past week, phones, the temperature sensor was a surprise. Face unlock HDR was a surprise. Thumbs up, thumbs down on what we've seen so far, or any other surprises?
I pre-ordered a Pixel 8.
So that says it all right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yep. I like the colorways. I thought they looked at the photos.
Okay, hold on. I have something to say about the colorways. I did not like that Google went pink with the smaller Pixel and then blue with the Pro Pixel. I would have rather they just stuck to one hue, or just
or
like
the same offering across.
Have it be some sort of blue, like what they did last year. They had kind of the lighter green on the Pixel 7, and then they had the darker green on the Pixel 7 Pro. I was fine with that. They kind of matched, and then the 7A came out and it was like, this blue. So I was thinking, oh, we're going to have blue coming next. Reluctantly, I pre-ordered a pink Pixel 8. Not proud of it.
All right. I probably would have chosen that color too, though, Flo. So
it was that or black or white. And, I'm trying to put color in my life. So.
All right, so let's move on to the watch. Flo, I know wearables is a big thing for you on your side of Pixel Watch 2, hands-on at the event. Not much change in terms of the look from last year, right? A lot of it seems to be inside. The 4 pins for charging and all the other sensors and stuff like that. But Mishaal, when anything that jumped out to you for the watch and the Wear OS side, or?
Wear OS will finally let you like do backups on the cloud, and also let you transfer between phones without having to factory reset your watch, which is amazing.
Yeah, that was a pain.
I think any reviewer is jumping in joy at hearing that news.
Yep.
It made no sense backing up my Samsung watch and only having Samsung portion of it back up and not the Android portion of it.
Right. And of course, Wear OS 4, it was announced, is now stable and available on the Pixel Watch 2. So Right.
Well, so supposedly this has got a better heart rate monitor because it's called a multi-zone sensor, so it taps into more. I have to read a little more into it because definitely when it comes down like to the internals of these wearables, I'm still learning a lot because, you know, fitness for me is going for a walk every day. So
Yep.
so understanding how this stuff gives me the stats, you know, I still want the stats at the end of the day. And supposedly this is going to be more accurate than what was on the first Pixel. Supposedly the Fitbit Charge 6 is within the same vein. Like that also boasts a better heart rate monitor. So I think Google's just trying to establish itself as like, we're a wellness brand too, by the way.
Yeah.
And look, we do all of these things. But you know, I'm so fine with what I have on the Samsung watch.
Yeah.
How am I gonna find
Yeah, that just seemed like
is
the
Fitbit
theme
gonna, you know?
with the Pixel Watch too, right? So it's just playing catch up. So it has to have the stress. It has to have the stress monitoring and stress letting you know. It has to have the improved heart rate monitor. It has to let you know what zone it's in. By the way, we do sleep and whatever. It just feels like catching up. So I don't think there's anything astounding. It's just like, yeah, you know, that makes sense.
And so much Fitbit. I mean, the Fitbit integration is just, you know, like, hey, we bought Fitbit. Remind you, we bought Fitbit. You know, and so that's on there. All right, we are running so long. Elephant in the room.
My fault.
No, it's not your fault. No, this is great. It's fantastic. Elephant in the room, though. 7 years of updates.
That was my favorite thing. I was very happy to see that. But
turned out to be controversial.
Yeah, I don't know. So like, I remember, I think when I was on with Jason, he asked me, so what did you like? And the first thing I said was 7 years of updates, because we've been talking about every single story that around the socioeconomic numbers, yada, yada, right to repair. And I remember seeing the next day, I think it was like maybe the next day, MKBHD put out a video and like Linus Tech Tips and a whole bunch of people were like, well, yeah, 7 years, but can you trust Google? They've canceled so many services. And I have to admit, I had such a weird, I had a reaction to their weird reaction. I know Mishaal, like you and like a friend of the show mentioned over 95, everyone was kind of piling in on, yeah, why is everyone freaking out about this? And I mean, like the gist of it is a lot of these, you know, tech media folks were saying, well, yeah, 7 is great, but can you really trust Google? They've canceled so many things. And like Mark Case on his video went through things like Stadia. And like, of course, we just talked about Google Podcasts and stuff. And it honestly, it bugged the shit out of me. Like, honestly, this all bugs the shit out of me. Okay, so this is as my perspective, and like maybe Ron, this is where you can chime in. Like, okay, I get it. Like general yada 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 mistrust of Google. It's a lot different to say, okay, and even Marquez was talking about the difficulties of things like Stadia and like trying to build a user base for a new product. That's a lot different. That's apples and oranges to saying we're going to continue to support a device for 7 years. That's apples and oranges. Like, yep. And if we went at that tack and like questioned whether they, you know, the discussion was around that, I'd agree with that. But like, I just don't get it. It just really felt to me like, okay, now we're going to complain about this because I don't know, because 7 years is great. Let's try to other side this. It just drove me a little bit nuts because it's apples and oranges. And Ron, like, I don't know, as a product person, building a new product and a new user base for a new product is a lot different than supporting something that you already have had for several years, right?
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, from that standpoint, from you know, the support kind of thing. But to me, my perspective on this was I thought the slamming was a little unfair because Lord knows we're harsh on Google and we'll call them out when they kill things and all that sort of stuff that they're doing. But this is a promise for support for a device where if they go back on that, couldn't they technically be sued? Like, is it like isn't that commitment like
Definitely
this is a
liability?
This is like there could be a class action suit if they back out on that because this is a support structure kind of thing. It's not a feature thing. It's not a hey, we're gonna have this gaming platform and you know not enough people are using it or we wanted to or you know we're gonna create this piece of hardware that we're gonna shut that down, whatever it might be. Like that's up to their own prerogative. You've never had a commitment to keep putting out a product, but by making a commitment to support a product you put out, I believe that can be upheld, you know, via, you know, legally, right?
Yeah, like
right.
I mean, I was going to ask y'all, do you know if I don't know, is it a warranty? Is it legally binding? I mean, it sounds.
I mean certainly
somebody
all the
sued
businesses.
Taco Bell for false advertising,
and Subway for not having a footlong.
Subway, right? Yeah,
and
exactly.
won.
Yeah,
oh, well, that's good.
Okay.
These are all great
Good
points.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I mean, certainly all the businesses that are gonna buy a Pixel, expecting 7 years of updates, will not be happy. Definitely, and probably would take it to court if
Yeah.
Google ended up not,
But see, this
providing
doesn't
7
make
years of
sense to
updates.
me because Google's just trying to establish itself the same way that Apple has among its user base, which is saying like our phone is super easy. You don't have to think about updating it.
Right.
And like Apple did not promise that it was going to offer as many updates as it did. But some iPhones it supports up to like 8-9 years after the fact. Which is why a lot of the iPhone folks never feel a rush to update, and yet it still hasn't hurt Apple's bottom line. So I feel like Google is trying to like tap into that somehow, either as to like have that be a bragging right, or to see if it actually works.
The years of support has been a through line through this year. Like we've been discussing the different manufacturers, and of course I can't remember them because I'm old and tired. But like I feel like we've already discussed this year, like this company's offering X amount of years of support, and of course like hot off the heels of the Google event. We get rumors that Samsung is "quote unquote" actively considering expanding their security updates past 5 years. Playing catch up
there
in
chip
that
in the
regard.
Qualcomm.
Yeah, exactly.
This is something I was actually like wanted to bring up is like Google's 7-year commitment is going to put a lot of pressure on other manufacturers because I don't think like any other manufacturer is going to be able to have the same level of commitment, especially for their low end devices. Because 7 years, like just doing updates in general is very expensive.
Sure.
So like if Google is not selling a ton of Pixels, they're going to be bleeding money just doing updates forever. For 7 years. So I don't think like Samsung's going to be able to do a 7-year commitment for their lowest end Galaxy A series phones, right? Like they're able to do their 5-year commitment for their upper mid range and their flagship devices, and they might be able to do or even beat Google on their next S series device, right? Their flagship, because they make a lot of money off that. But like all these budget phones you see on like in like carrier stores at Best Buy and stuff like that, there's no way they're going to be able to match Google at 7 years of updates, especially because they're not selling that many. They're not making a huge amount of money off them.
Yeah, there's economics behind it,
Right.
So, anyway, that's funny. Also on the Samsung side, which I thought was funny, just Samsung playing Me Too, not only talking about those events, but actually, was it today or yesterday? Samsung came out to join Google. Look at Flo just rolled her eyes so hard.
Take a shot.
Samsung getting in on the Get the Message campaign. They put out a video shaming Apple, saying that green bubbles and blue bubbles just want to be together, be happy together, help Apple get the message. And how much do you like talk about corporate synergy, like Google going to Samsung going, hey friends, why don't you help us with this? Let's get them to do that. It's very Me Too, and it's just very funny. Not Me Too in the other way, you know what I mean? Like
they will never convince like Apple knows what it's got in iMessage, and even I'll admit like if and when I leave this career, I may still have an iPhone after this because like being able to send high res photos and receive them from other iPhone users.
I can't go down this rabbit hole, Flo. I can't.
I would rather just have two phones. No, I'd rather have two phones for the rest of my life to ensure that I get high res photos.
It should work cross-platform.
I agree with you, but why would they?
But by having an iPhone enables them. Florence, I expect better from you.
I agree. I would love if they would just figure out a way to like enable some things and then have some things be special. Like I don't need editing.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. So we're so late on this, but event overall, Flo, were you glad you went to New York? We got to at least be in the same building for a couple hours.
Yes, we did. Ron and I discovered that we work in the same building in New York City.
Like, the weirdness, the weirdness just continues. Because Flo posted a picture like a block from my office, and I was like, "Hey, that's right by my office." She's like, "Yeah, my office is near here too." And she said the address. I'm like, "That's my office." And she's like,
and I'm like, "Oh, we're on the 6th floor." Oh, okay. But we didn't get to meet, unfortunately, because I was rushing out. It was a very quick trip.
Yeah. But was it worth being in the room for all this, or worth being able to see? Yeah.
I think it's important because I get to do this right after doing the Apple event. And so this is like my time where I'm sitting in the brand's house, to kind of like see them and see what they're presenting. It makes me understand their hardware better as a person who covers their things. So yes, for that.
Worth it.
it was necessary and worth it.
All right, well, we're excited because you're getting hands-on devices. I'm getting some Pixel devices. Next week, we'll be able to show them off and talk about it, so you might want to tune in next week. I'll be able to give you some hands-on unboxing with the Pixel stuff and Flow. Everybody can. You'll probably be writing about it, right, on the Gizmodo for your.
I will be on vacation.
Oh, okay, even better. Great.
Yeah, I'm leaving soon. My time here is done.
Very deserved.
All right, well, we got some more news. It's still Google related, right? Mishaal, you got this next one?
Yeah, so at the event, Google finally unveiled the Assistant upgrade that we all were thinking of back when they first announced Assistant many, many years ago. This is the Assistant we thought we were getting way back, like 2014 or whatever, when it was first announced.
Yeah.
So now we're getting Assistant with Bard. So you're familiar with Google Assistant. You're familiar with Google Bard. Now we're getting both of them combined in this new interface. So starting soon, on the Pixel 8 users, with users in the US, you'll be able to call up Assistant with Bard, and it'll be able to basically use generative AI to respond to text, images, or whatever else you input into it. Like, there weren't that many examples given on the actual event, but we were able to see some things like you have this photo of this puppy, and then you pull up the Assistant with Bard, this floating UI, and then you're able to ask it to describe the photo of your cute puppy, so that you can post that on social media. So this is basically
because you can't find the words to describe a cute puppy.
I mean, honestly, sometimes you just can't think of like the best thing to type, right?
What is
Social
the word
media.
I'm looking for? Oh, adorable. That's it.
Right.
Thank you, Bard. Yeah.
All I can think of is when I see this is what we all imagined Google Now on Tap to be,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Like you want to call up Google Now on Tap, have it describe whatever's on screen, or like send it some prompt and have it describe your daily routine or your email or your calendar or something.
Yeah.
This is the Google Now on Tap we all imagined way back when.
So, like, yeah, I'm with you there. Thumbs up on the functionality. Thumbs up on the AI integration. Thumbs down on the name.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
it's long.
I fully suspect they're probably gonna drop Bard and just call this
Yeah.
Google Assistant
It's-
in like 2 years or
It's
something.
gotta be. But there's a catch to all this, right?
Yeah, it seems like according to digging done by 905 Google in the latest version of the Google app, that this will at least be limited to tensor-powered Pixel devices and the upcoming Galaxy S24, at least when this service launches later this year.
That sounds
So
right.
that might be because they're just premium devices, or might be because there's some level of on-device processing done. We don't exactly know the full details of why it might be limited to those devices at this time. But I guess once the service launches, we'll be able to find out more details.
Flo, why do you think it's limited to this?
Well, I'm just thinking about the AI prospect of it all. And I was saying, because if Tensor's first, why is Samsung going to be second? Are they going to do something with Qualcomm that will enable this ability? Is this because I'm also curious about like how the other component makers.
Well, yeah, I mean,
will,
I guess the question is whether or not it's being driven by the processor, or to me, it just seems like a marketing. This is buy-in. This is get the latest flagship from Google and Samsung, and you get this cool feature.
I think it's fair that it might be a bit legitimate just because of, and this was something that I thought was really interesting, but it's one of those kind of like low key, like technical things where I forgot what specific part off the top of my head now that Rick was talking about it, but was it Rick also talking about on device models where the AI models will actually be hosted on the device, and that's kind of huge,
Yeah.
like being able to process that. So and I mean, we'll see how it comes out because they did have to, what did he say, like kind of pare down the models a bit, but that's huge for a lot of reasons. Were we talking about this before the show about latency of like, when like we were talking about like latency a little bit before the show about assistant, and Mishaal brought it up about, so there's a latency because when, you have to ask Google something, Google hits a server and comes back, there's a non-trivial and non-zero travel time there. So having it on device kind of mitigates a lot of that. And also in our increasingly security and privacy concerned world, having all your data stay in your hands is a good thing. So I think there is a legitimate, I don't know, and to the degree at which this is legitimate, I don't know. But I think there is a legitimate argument to be made that you would need at least a flagship level, AI compatible, friendly, if not AI purpose-built processor to make it a viable experience.
Yep.
But
Possibly.
also marketing.
Yeah.
Never discount the marketing.
Yep. So interesting stuff. All right, I need to stop talking about Google, but it won't stop because we had major news break as well today, unrelated to the Pixel event. But I know when this is a hot button for you.
So remember how a few weeks ago we mentioned that among the other things that Nest Hub are losing was multiple speaker groups, and that was not because of the question around what the heck is Google doing with smart displays, but around a verdict that Sonos had won against them last year 2020, I think last year. Yep. In regards to various audio patents on a managing group of speakers. So last year a jury verdict was against Google, $32.5 million worth. That got thrown out on Friday, October 6th by a U.S. District Court judge. And basically this judge reviewed the verdict and said, actually, no. And basically two of the patents that Sonos had used kind of as key points in the argument, the judge considered unenforceable and invalid. And there's actually a whole timeline here. And to go through it semi-quickly, basically the Sonos's case came a lot from patents that came from a 2006 provisional application. So this was a provisional application, and they didn't actually file applications for these patents until 2019, 13 years later. And Sonos didn't actually use the patents in any products until 2020. And in the intervening years in 2014, so between the initial provisional application and when they actually filed it, Google, presented Sonos, because they were working on a collaboration at the time, with some plan to use multi-room audio technology. So there's a sense here that they were working together. Sonos did not have any products out, so that there was a collaboration here. And furthermore, at some point before the 2019 application was submitted, they actually how did they say it? Discreetly made amendments. So apparently the 2006 application had very little substantive stuff in it. There wasn't an actual invention or actual kind of like spec in there for anything. They added it later in 2019, which apparently annoyed the judge. And so, they basically said, no, just no. You probably didn't say it like that, but basically that was the gist of the ruling, is that no. And he basically, it was very strong language, more or less saying Sonos did a bad. They abused the trademark and patent system, and he overturned it. And of course, Google was very happy about it. They released an entire statement celebrating the ruling and all the features they took out, like multiple speaker groups for your Nest displays, your Chromecast, is going to be rolled back. In fact, immediately. Google has said that all the changes are going to happen and go out to most devices, the Google Home for Android app, within the next 48 hours.
They're moving fast.
Yeah, and they're moving fast. And of course, Google, of course, said that the U.S. Trademark and Patent and Trademark Office really needs more funding so they can keep up with the pace of technology and increasing complex patents. And I had a whole rant here. If we had more time, I would be like, this is great because yes, Sonos did a bad and abused the trade and patent and trademark system, but it does not do anything for me for Google kind of saying, oh no, like. Oh,
because
dear.
Google does the same thing with lobbyists
they do the same
as
thing.
well.
They do the same thing.
And Sonos did that because Sonos has to protect their bottom line. Their whole thing is that it's a closed audio ecosystem that works really darn well, which is why they cater so much to like the Apple crowd, because they're like, oh, premium sound, like premium design, and it works just perfectly with AirPlay. It is very hard to enjoy a Sonos product as an Android user.
This is actually one of those. This is actually like a trend that I see only accelerating as we go on. Like, before we had a lot of audio products from Sonos. We had like Sony leading in the headphone space. But now it seems like all the leaders are the people who also make the smartphones, who make the tablets and make the devices. They have access to making the ecosystem.
Well, yeah,
and like all these smaller
Beats?
players just don't
Beats?
really stand. Yeah,
I forgot.
Apple.
Like all these smaller players are just getting like kind of crowded out because they don't have access to the devices that you use, in your everyday life. They only make that one product, and they're just hoping they can work together well with all the other products in your home. But they don't make all the other products in your home, so they don't really have any control over that.
This is definitely like I think genuinely a blame the player, blame the game, not the player. And that's because, in my personal opinion, software patents and trademarks are a disease. Like it's everywhere. I've seen this my entire career. I saw this when I was a student. It's not.
Except
if
when
there's
you own
one
the
thing.
patent.
Yeah,
there's one thing we can excuse you cursing over on the show, it's the patent system.
It's bullshit, and it is no longer. Patents and trademarks are meant to protect innovation. At this point, they've just become the goal themselves.
Well,
like
that's the issue. That there's a whole underbelly barnacle industry around patent owning and trolling and patent trolling and all stuff like that. Listen, I have patents, and I would, and I'm very proud of our patent, and I would defend it if it when applicable. But I'm not going around buying patents so that I can sue people who are doing other things like I agree with you, Win. I think that the patent system needs an overhaul so that innovation can happen. People can profit from the innovation they make and adequately license stuff, but also innovation begets innovation.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you got to have a world where people, on the shoulders of giants, people can build on the genius of others and stuff like that. And it's like copyright. It's like all this. It's just
no. I think like for you, like someone like, you running your patents is what the ideal of the trademark and patent system is. Like, that's the ideal. We meant to, encourage people to and give them protection so they are not squashed by a competitor with bigger resources, better resources, who can just do it faster than you can.
Yeah.
But it's flipped it because now the big guys have the tools and the toys, and they're using it to squish other people. So I'm not trying to rag on anyone who does have patents.
Sonos.
It's a weird example because like I don't
their headquarters are in Santa Barbara. They got some nice
it's weird like
nice
fighting
life.
this one with this case because they're both big, but and there are like I don't blame you if you want to get patents, and you need to get patents in certain things. Right. Academia, you get a freaking doctorate based on how many patents you had. So I get it. Again,
right.
Blame the game, not the player. Wait, am I saying that wrong?
No, blame the game, not the
player. Yeah, totally.
But I do think that there's some validity. I mean, like beyond the discussion of just like patents and, how they are a game, I do think there's some validity to just like talking about Sonos as a company having to compete with Google, which can do all these things and market it in a way that it is like competing with one company's, main thing that they do. Like that's
their sole existence.
Kind of wild.
Yeah. All that they
very fair. Extremely fair.
And so the only power Sonos had was to say like, no, I'm sorry, actually.
And they got to defend it. Like that's the thing. It's like a copyright and stuff like that. You have to defend it. It's all very complicated. And
their stuff does sound good. Their stuff does sound good, people.
Yeah.
Okay, it sounds better than the HomePod.
That's for sure. All right. Well, either way, if you're a Google user, a Google Home user, and you have speaker groups, in a couple of days you'll get them back.
Yeah,
so,
this is
there
great.
you go.
This is great. Finally.
Woo!
All right. So we're gonna do lightning round for the rest of the show. So everybody buckle up and hang in there.
Okay.
Thank you to our patrons. Go to patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. You get to help us choose a news story to presumably talk about or talk quickly about on the show every week. And this week we were talking about the rumors that Apple was investigating working with DuckDuckGo. That only got 17% of the vote. It looks like Samsung Wallet is going to start supporting driver's licenses inside of it, which is honestly huge. But that only got 12% of the vote. Nope. The one that got the winner this week with 71% of the vote was the fact that there is a Pixel 8 teardown video already out in the wild. The fine folks over at PBK Reviews, not days after the Pixel event came out, got their hands on a Pixel 8 and did a teardown video. And they go through and examine all the different components and all the things inside the Pixel 8. So if that's your thing, was anyone surprised by anything you saw during this video?
Ron, that's not days after the Pixel 8. That's the day of.
The day of.
Look at the timestamp.
Yeah.
You know what?
You're right. It is. It's like it's hours after. How did they do that? It's crazy.
God's bless the all breakdown, folks, because that's not an inexpensive piece of tech. So
yeah. No, do you think Google let them do this?
Sorry.
No,
you don't think Google let them like it's the day of the event.
No.
We're all okay, fine. I'm just exploring it. It's conspiracies. That's all. So
no. So can you go to the score? I want to see the repairability score.
Where is it?
Bum-ba-dum, bum-ba-dum.
I don't remember if this person posts like repairability.
I don't know if they
scores.
did.
I think
they
just
do.
post like.
I've written about them before, but maybe they didn't for this particular one.
Oh, I think
because they did it too soon.
I don't think they did.
They're gonna do a second part. It looks like we're gonna tear down too. So this is like a hey, look inside. We'll tell you more later. Yeah.
That's what I want to know about the repairability, because remember Google's really pushing this like we're repairable too. We have stations inside Best Buy. So this will tell us if it really is.
Yeah. So stay tuned on that. But yeah, I mean, but they go through and they show all the cameras, they go the tensor chip, all that stuff. So it's all in there. There's not enough. There's not as much room in here as the Pixel tablet. That's for sure. So. All right. Well, moving along. We got a bunch of. We're gonna do some quick hits here. So, Mishaal, what's the first one we got?
So Google said they won't be making a, quote, low-cost Pixel phone. And I'm only saying that in air quotes because it's not an actual quote, because the original source came from German publication The Standard. So we're all getting it through a Google Translate filter. But basically, the VP of Google Mobile Business, Nanda Ramachandran, talked to The Standard and basically said they have no plans to make a low-cost Pixel device. And low cost, they mean like really low cost, like $200, €200 price point. And they never made a Pixel phone that cheap before. They have made like several Nexus devices that were kind of cheap, like really like the mid 350s range, like $399, but never a Pixel phone that cheap, $200 range.
And citing that, supporting AI, having a good camera, all the security framework all jacks up the price, right?
Yeah. Because if you look at even all their cheap in air quotes devices, the A series devices, those still have the flagship tier Tensor processors, and they still have a lot of the same camera sensors. They still have a high refresh rate display. I think that the Pixel 7a has a 90 hertz refresh rate display. They still have so many of the same components and features and hardware specs of its bigger siblings that I don't see any way they could conceivably make a $200 Pixel phone and not have it be compromised, in so many areas.
And it also ties into what you mentioned earlier, Mishaal, about the promise for 7 years of support.
Yeah.
Like Samsung and
That would
other
be really hard to do.
Other companies that do offer super low cost phones, it would be economically not advantageous, whatever the word is supposed to be.
Advantageous.
Yeah. Thank you. Not advantageous.
So, Mishaal, what does this mean for will there be no Pixel 8a?
No, there definitely will be. I mean, at least it looks like there will be, because a couple of weeks ago we had a leaked hands-on image of the Pixel 8a, and now we have full 3D renders, of course, courtesy of OnLeaks, who seems to get his hands
pink
on
again.
pretty much
Surprise,
every single
surprise,
Pixel
it's a
device.
girl.
Well, there you go. There's a blue one.
Yeah.
Flo.
The interesting thing about the Pixel 8a is, one, it exists, because there were some rumors that it might not exist, and number two, how round it is. Just look at how round the corners are. I encourage you to go on the site. I think it's Smart Pricks that leaked it this time.
Yeah,
Smart Pricks with OnLeaks. Yeah. And just look at the renders. This has some of the most rounded corners I've ever seen on a smartphone.
It makes me think they're like making it match Android 14 like pills or something, just something like that. It's just, yeah.
Oh,
but
hey, there could be some legitimates.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, kind of.
That sounds like something a design team would.
Yeah, draw that connection. But it's important to note that the 8A is technically considered a mid-range, not a budget phone. So that article was talking about $200 phones, where the Pixel A line is usually $400 to $600 in that range, and the Pixel 8A is gonna have the same Tensor G3 chip as the other ones. They find cost savings in not the glass back, right? It's the plastic back and changes there. Yeah. So so we
Micro USB.
Yeah. Right. So the question is, nice.
Please no.
The question is when we see the 8A come out, but it will likely probably be next year. But I would be shocked if they get rid of the A line. So, all right. Well, moving on in hardware. All this talk about Google, a little bit of Samsung. We can't forget our friends at OnePlus, because hey, they launched a tablet. The OnePlus Pad Go came out, a budget tablet. 11.35 inch tablet. It's got 33 watt fast charging, 8 gig of RAM. It's got 4 speakers in there. This is really designed to be affordable, and I believe it's launching in India. So whether or not how accessible it will be to everybody else around around the world, it will be questionable. But the fact that OnePlus is committing to other devices and other price ranges, I find really, really interesting. And this is hot on the heels of the, as of today, the continued rumors of the OnePlus Open being a real thing. We saw that video last week of somebody holding the OnePlus with the camera covered. But then now we've got leaks of photos of it with the full camera, Hasselblad camera in the back, and specs and pricing starting to roll out. And rumored that the OnePlus Open will launch very, very soon, like next week even. So we will stay tuned to see that. But OnePlus making moves. So
Another foldable in the wild.
it's not
Hopefully.
not a bad thing.
Nope.
Pro foldable.
Love
So
it.
We'll see. All
Foldable
right.
faithful.
Cool. All right, and then moving on from there, Mishaal, you want to make sure we talked about Android QPR1 Beta 2. It's getting really hard to talk about this stuff, Mishaal, by the way. Can you talk to them about the naming? Right?
Android 14
Oh, that's so cute.
QPR1 Beta 2. So another beta has released for the Android 14 QPR release cycle, and this one doesn't have that many changes compared to the first beta. This one has a new unified system updates page for Pixel phones. So now on this unified page, you can see whether or not your OS is up to date, whether or not your Google Play system update is up to date, which is the mainline modules, and you can see also whether your Pixel system apps are up to date. And some of the other things that are in the build is that the new weather app that's available on the Pixel 8 is now available. So this weather app is not the weather app that actually shows you the weather. This weather app is just a weather provider for other apps like the Google Clock app. So now if you have this app installed, you can get weather information in the Clock app on your widgets and your home screen. So it's a nice little addition to the feature set. I don't know why it requires a separate app. I think it's because they want to basically have it so the Clock app itself doesn't request location permissions, but it's a neat little addition. Some of the other things is that there's a hint that they may introduce a Pixel troubleshooting app, which will allow you to get quick help with various issues that you're having on your phone, whether or not it's overheating, your battery's charging, or your phone is charging slowly, or you have network issues. This hasn't launched yet. This is there's the app that's built into the OS. It's just been leaked. And then there's some other smaller minor changes. One of them is Wear OS related. There's a hint that you'll be able to sync permissions between apps on your phone and apps on your watch. So if instead of tapping a bunch of, do you want to grant this app a permission on your watch, you can just click a button to sync all permissions between the apps you already have on your phone and the apps that you're installing on your watch.
Cool. Very cool. And you do a very detailed breakdown on your Twitter, on your X account, or whatever the hell it's called now. Which, by the way, I know, whatever, it's hard not to, because if you're watching the video show, we're showing Mishaal's feed where he's got his thread talking about all this. It's hard to ignore what's trending, and the fact that while we're doing the show, iOS 17.1 is trending at the same time as adultery.
Oh, beautiful.
I don't even want to know why
they
that's
go hand
trending.
in hand.
Sorry.
I know, exactly.
Oh, goodness.
So anyway, but it's cool. Some QPR1 Beta 2 goodness. Did I get that right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not to be outdone with new features, and we've kind of talked about One UI 6 before, but it was officially announced the day after the Made by Google event on October 5th at the Samsung Developer Conference. So we've kind of mentioned One UI 6 off and on because it's been in beta. So a lot of things are probably not a surprise, but if you want to blow by blow, Sam Mobile over at sammobile.com, they have a great walkthrough video and kind of an exhaustive list. So, I mean, I would let a couple of things that were my favorite, which I'm going to talk about, although the walkthrough is excellent, is a freely positionable lock screen clock. I know that doesn't sound like it. I don't know. That just seems like a huge deal for me because it drives me nuts that I cannot move the clock or that I can't optimize the space. But on One UI 6, you can actually freely resize and move that clock. And to go with it, everybody's got to have their own weather widget. So there's actually a new Samsung weather widget because it's important. New multitasking improvements, lots of new camera improvements because, of course, they got to keep up with Google. Some great accessibility features, new layout for notifications, a lot of visual tweaks and that kind of stuff. So anyway, for the full rundown, please go to sammobile.com and check it out. And if you're still rocking a Samsung, let us know what you think of One UI 6.0 and what your favorite features are. But yeah, officially announced. It's not out yet, actually. It'll be out before the end of the year, but this is kind of like the official, hey, it's coming. So,
Flo, how are you feeling about Samsung and One UI these days?
Oh, I'm fine. I mean, I'm fine with it. Their foldable interface is still my favorite.
Out of all the foldable interfaces, they're
I
the
use
one?
the Z Fold over the Pixel Fold. Sorry.
Wow. Win. By the way, Flo, I don't know if you've caught up with Win in the past, but she is fully Pixel. She's a Pixel Fold girl. She's fully
okay.
in.
But does the Pixel Fold have Smart Select?
No, it does not. I miss all that stuff.
No.
I did say that my perfect phone right now would be this form factor with One UI on it. So, I'm so sorry. How did that happen? I turned the flashlight on, everybody. So, right when there's new, but I do. Yeah, I do miss One UI. I do. 100%.
See?
There it is. All right, well, that was a lightning round through hardware and apps, but it was a very pixel big week. But we do love to hear from you in the Android Faithful community. We love you all, and we encourage you to email us at contact@androidfaithful.com, or many of our patrons have taken to messaging us on Patreon, such as this week's email, which comes in and says, "Hello, Android Faithful team. I've been listening since episode 1 and all about Android for a long time before then. I recently spent 2 weeks driving around Ireland while on vacation and had my first real experience using Android Auto. Overall, I felt it was a really nice experience that I wish my Tesla, cue Flo rant on non-physical controls on a car, which, by the way, that was not planned, Flo. This is like the stars aligned for you to join. Allowed me to use Android Auto. One big thing I ended up having issues with is that sometimes the phone in the car would not sync properly, so I could not use it. I feel like the lack of an actual app made it harder for me to diagnose if it was car, cable, or a phone problem. Other than that, I do feel like it had too many times when it would want me to interact with it while driving. Things like making my phone's notifications too big and asking me things about my drive. P.S. I feel like the Pixel 4, the small one, is one of the best Pixel devices, even with the battery issues. It was a perfect size and not too heavy. The face unlock was really nice and still has better accuracy than any of the under-screen fingerprint readers. And that comes from Ryu Monastis. Ryu, I'm mispronouncing your first name, probably. I'm guessing Ryuu. Ryu. Anyway,
Ryu.
Ryu. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ryu, for your email. And Flo, there's some Android Auto love for you. Or agreement.
Can I
with
be
you.
honest with all y'all?
Please, that's why you're here.
Ooh, this is gonna. I do have an active SIM in my iPhone review unit, and I've been using CarPlay in the Subaru.
Uh-oh.
It's way more stable.
Whoa.
I mean, that's fair.
I'm sorry. Like it doesn't like I don't
I
sit
think
there
it-
like plugging and unplugging and going to
No,
like
that's
select
fair,
the
'cause-
input. It's just you plug it in and then all of a sudden my Spotify's playing. Like the
It just
Apple Maps
works.
are actually kind of nicer now because they got little 3D
It's kind of
tilting going on.
yeah. It's one of those things where like once you find a stable setup, then you just live with that, and like that's your
and so I'm like,
experience, and it works for you.
if mommy's driving, which is me because it's a family car, right? And I'm mommy. If I'm driving, I've been bringing the iPhone now, but part of it was also like the curiosity of CarPlay because I had never used it before.
You're experimenting. It's okay. It's
Yeah,
all right.
I was experimenting.
I mean,
but
you
I
could have
got
done
so
it in college, but you
frustrated.
chose not to. But so
I experimented differently in college, but yes. So Pixel 7 definitely stopped working with the Android Auto in the Subaru, which is why I was like, forget this. I'm just gonna use the iPhone. I'm not gonna even try and fix this anymore.
By the way, as we're talking about car and auto sort of stuff, so I'm also got a proud Subaru driver, and I'm completely, even though I have the AA wireless device and I have the cable. Honestly, it's the dumb Subaru heads unit software and a Bluetooth
Subaru
connection.
It's the
the easiest
software.
That is the easiest, frictionless, seamless. I open up my phone, connects via Bluetooth. I press play on Pocket Cast and I drive, or press play on YouTube Music and I drive.
Yeah.
As opposed to doing all the nonsense. Even when I'm driving somewhere where I need to use navigation, I'm still just going on Google Maps on my phone and holding it while I drive, as opposed to going through the rigmarole of connecting all. Nothing against, and this, by the way, this is different than Android Auto in head unit versus Android Auto being plugged, an Android phone being plugged in to pull up Android Auto. Like those are two different experiences. If I had a car running Android Auto, that would be a different. I would hope that would be a different experience. But
No, I mean, I'm with y'all. I'm also a proud Subaru driver, and I today in the last 2 days have unplugged and replugged my phone, or just had it not work about a dozen times. And it's
and Bluetooth
dangerous.
is so much easier.
It's so much easier. There actually, when I was in town for IO with y'all, I actually was driving a different car that wasn't a Subaru, but it still had the same issues. And then halfway through, I'm like somewhere outside of San Jose, and the navigation just goes away, and I can't unplug it and replug it. And
I've had to pull over before because of Android Auto just completely freezing on me, and I'm just like on the freeway crying. Why does
I was about to cry because that's like, I don't know how to get. I mean, luckily I was mostly back to my hotel, but if it had been like
It's
10
so
miles
nerve
back,
wracking in a place
it
you don't
is.
know.
And it was like
Very
this is after we had
nerve-wracking.
dinner, so it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was like,
Yes.
oh, God. So anyway,
It's even more nerve wracking because it's very dark in Silicon Valley. They don't light the roads very well down there.
Right. Mishaal, do you have a car?
Yeah, I mean, I use Android Auto,
You
but
drive a
it's,
Subaru?
Okay, is it a Subaru?
No. You're wondering if we all have Subarus.
I wanted to be a Subaru bingo. Damn
Wait,
it.
so what do you drive? Not, I mean, you just
Honda.
might you don't have to tell us model.
Honda.
But maker.
Yeah.
Good
Honda.
for you.
But it's actually an aftermarket Android Auto. That's why I don't want to say if it's like good or bad because it
I
wouldn't
thought he
really
was gonna
be
be like, I have an
indicative of the car.
aftermarket Honda Civic.
He's
I've
got the thing on the
spoilers.
muffler that makes it
Yeah.
do the wee noise, and he's got the lights. You got the lights
Yeah,
underneath.
what do you
right?
call the
Is it-
kit underneath? Like a whole kit and everything.
It looks like it's floating. Is that what it, Michelle? Or no?
They're not
I
trying to
actually
haze you or
like. Yeah, I actually prefer using wired Android Auto over wireless because wireless I've just had trouble. But like, I found a cable that works and it works consistently, so I just been using wired, and it works much more reliably.
Yep,
for me.
I agree.
Cool.
Plus, it charges your phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you were using Android Auto or had any experiences with car driving and anything, please email us at contact@androidfaithful.com. We want to hear from you. Also, please tell us what you thought of the Pixel event. We need feedback. Come on, people, you aren't emailing us enough. So get those emails in. We want to highlight them on the show.
I will come back more if
Yeah.
you email here more often.
And bonus points
That
if you
is
tell
my
us if you drive a
promise.
Subaru, or if you drive a Subaru.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So,
You drive a Subaru. Are you happy with your purchase?
I just
Are you happy with the way Android Auto works in your Subaru?
our lease expired in December, and I bought it outright because I was just because rates. It was less money to buy the Subaru than to get a new lease for a new Subaru or get a new car. Like it was just it drives me crazy. Anyway, all right, cool. Well, that's gonna wrap up the show. Flo, how did it feel to be back in the chair in this with this little Android?
You know what?
I was gonna say this Android arena, but that's a different thing. So
Next time I come, I promise to be less stressed, and then that way I can be even more unhinged. I'm looking forward to coming back and like getting more and more comfortable. With y'all have the new script, the new notes, show notes. Different way of doing things.
little tweaks here and there. That's all. But Flo, you are always welcome. You are OG. You're a member of the family. So yeah, whenever you want, you're welcome on the show. But in the meantime, where can people find you on the internet?
Gizmodo.com, and I am that Flo on all the social media sites. Just don't come looking for me at X. I don't really post there. Also, I have a website, florenceion.com. If you need to find links to where I am on the internet, that's a good place to start.
Cool. And we'll look for you out on Gizmodo. Whenever I see your byline, I always read it. So I'll give you the click. So there it is.
Thank you.
And I don't block ads. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. So, all right. Mishaal, where can people find you in your wonderful world of Android?
So you already saw that I post a lot about Android on Twitter, but I know people don't like Twitter, especially these days.
And yet they still use
I'm also
it.
on Mastodon. People still use it. I'm on Mastodon as well.
I'm paying
I'm on
Mishaal on Twitter.
Threads. I'm on. Thank you. I am on Telegram, Reddit, all these other sites. You can find me on pretty much every platform where I post about Android. Almost the same content everywhere. But if you want to support me, you can go to patreon.com/Mishaal Rahman to support my work so I can continue to post about Android, get new devices, and just continue to post, all the time. A lot of this work doesn't end up going as a blog post because, a lot of it's just nerdy and stuff that not everyone cares about. So I just post it on Twitter, but it still takes hours to do all that research. So I'd appreciate, throwing a few dollars if you could support would go a
And
long
we
way.
appreciate your work, by the way, because a lot of journalists in this industry actually read Mishaal's work for fact checking. So support Mishaal's work.
And they embed his posts that we see it all the time. Like Flo,
Yes.
the joke is when Mishaal's not on the show, he's still on the show because
Yes.
we're talking about articles that quote him and stuff like that. So bravo,
Yeah.
Mishaal. So
Yeah, and a lot of devs don't know about anything until Mishaal posts it. Mishaal knows a lot more about Android than a lot of us supposed Android experts.
That's awesome.
I mean, I guess I'm more of a dev, but
well, speaking of that,
for
where
sure.
can people find you?
yeah, you can find me. And I am an Android dev. I do application work. I'm a little independent now, but you can find talks that I do accompanying video code and what's the other thing? Video code and slides sometimes when I do slides. On my website, randomlytyping.com. And in social places, I'm Queen Code Monkey. I still vaguely am on Twix, but I try not to post there. You can find me.
Twix. I've never heard that before.
I'm gonna
That's
call it
very
Twix
funny.
because I like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good.
Twix.
I like that. So.
I'm on Mastodon, but unlike all the other cool Android people, I'm at Queen Code Monkey at mastodon.social. And yeah, just find me. If it's Queen Code Monkey, it's probably me. I get mostly on Instagram. My bad.
And you can find me on all the socials, Twitter, Mastodon, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. I am Ron XO across the world. Instagram. Instagram's where I'm most active just because it's just pictures and it's easy. But I don't know. I want to be on everything more. I want to be like Mishaal. Someday I will. But while we're talking about supporting and everything, a reminder, everybody, you can go to patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. And we are on there as well. We love all of our amazing supporters. We appreciate everybody. You can get on the lowest level you can get on is $5 a month. You get access to, you get to vote on a news topic for us to talk about each week. You get access to our Discord. And then at $10 a month, you get access to that ad-free podcast feed. So if you don't like ads in your podcast, that's the way to get it. And we're linked up with Spotify now, so you can listen to the podcast on Spotify without ads, which would be great. And of course, if you sign up at the $20 level to be a friend of the show, you get a T-shirt, which a bunch of people are starting to get their merch. So listeners, patrons, if you got your sticker, you got your T-shirt, take a picture, send it to us. We want to see it in the wild. I've yet to see any Android Faithful merch in the wild, but we're really excited because we've got some. It's been a crazy couple of months, but we've got some exciting stuff lined up coming up over the next couple of months as we go into the new year. And we're really going to be amping up what we're doing here at Android Faithful. And we thank everybody who supported us to this point because you got us to where we are, and we're just going to go bigger in 24. So if you're not supporting, please do. We'd appreciate it. Thank you. Because this is not free. We don't have a network behind us anymore. Even though we work at DTNS, we still got to pay for hosting, website hosting, and all the other fun stuff. That I need a new mic stand. So there you go. So go to patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. We thank everybody for your support. You all are the best. We love you. Flo, we love you too. Thank you for joining us. We hope to have you again on soon. In the meantime, we'll wrap up because I know it is getting late. This podcast comes out every Tuesday night. And you can watch it on YouTube or on Twitch through the Daily Tech News Show network. And you can go to androidfaithful.com and subscribe and find all the links there. And until next week, we are Android Faithful.
We're always Android Faithful. What do you mean until next week?
Alrighty.
All right, y'all. Am I good to go?
We got to wrap the stream first.
Oh.
So I know, Flo, you got to
Okay.
go work. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hope you enjoyed Flo being back. We're going to wrap up
you.
so Flo can get back to her work. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next week. All right, sorry. Oh, I know normally we got to pick a title for the show, but we're going to do that offline. So,
We'll make good choices.
yeah, hang on real quickly. We'll look at it. What the current number one is very pixelated, which
Aw.
everybody was saying that's got to be the winner.
And
So
thank
there
you,
it is.
Clinton, for signing
Yeah.
up for a Twitch
Yeah.
account for that for me.
Yeah.
I should have just done it.
That's the
thank
one.
you.
That's the one.
Perfect
So,
attendance, Clinton Woodward.
all right. Yes, perfect attendance
Thank you,
award. Clinton.
everyone.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye,
See you later.
everybody.
Bye.